As a community of people that had worked for decades to make cannabis legal, we were very proud of what we had accomplished, both on the ground and with cannabis becoming legalized. And 2 years ago, there was great hope across this country. That hope has been completely squandered by the way that our federal and provincial governments have legalized cannabis. And yesterday was the final straw for me and many, many other people. To get as much high concentration of cannabis THC medicine into them. I know that because I cared for my lover, Gail Quinn, for 2 years while she was on her deathbed dying of cancer. And if it weren't for the cannabis medicines that we were using in suppositories, in oils, in creams, and medicines every single day, she would have died a lot sooner and a lot more pain than she did at the end of those 2 years. I'll take a stake in my heart before I stop providing that medicine to cancer patients. But the THC limits are only part of the picture here. There are so many problems with these regulations, but certainly that is the biggest hurdle that we have. But these regulations from top to bottom would ruin the community that we've been able to create for patients that provides not only a safe medicine, but a safe space. This provincial government's decided that there are no lounges allowed, that stores or places that don't sell cannabis at all cannot actually have a facility for people at all to use cannabis indoors. And that is just plain wrong on so many levels. It is this, on one hand, for patients like ours, that means that if we were to comply with the regulations, we would actually have to shut down our smoking room, which for many people is the only option they have but the street to smoke their medicines. And that's just plain wrong. We should be caring for the sick and marginalized and the poor and vulnerable, not forcing them out onto the street like they're a bunch of drug addicts. These are patients that we're talking about that deserve better. Our government pays for safe injection drug sites for hard drug users, and yet cannabis patients are pushed to the street like dogs in the backyard on a chain. It's just not morally responsible to do that. And part of this is the edibles and the topicals that our club provides. And this is not the first time that we have had to fight for what's right. In fact, I think everyone knows 10 years ago, almost to the day, we're a couple weeks away from when Owen Smith was arrested in a bakery in downtown Victoria. And we took that case to the Supreme Court of Canada in 2015. We won a unanimous decision before this Supreme Court that made cannabis extracts and edibles legal for patients. And that decision was incredibly important for several reasons. One important point is that the scientific evidence that our expert witness, Dr. David Payne, entered into court was never challenged at any level of the appeals. And his scientific evidence proved the safety and effectiveness of cannabis beyond a doubt. The cannabis plant is legal, and the medicines that we make from it should be legal too, so there should be no hurdles for that. And it's absolutely absurd that in the middle of a healthcare crisis with opioid addictions and people dying of opioid problems every single day, both from legal opioid drugs that they become addicted to because they got injured at work or in a car accident or something, that people have a hard time kicking, or other people that are trying to get off of illegal street drugs. Cannabis is the safest and best alternative for them available. And they need that cannabis at the lowest possible price we can give it to them. Because they are living on the edge of life. They're making life and death decisions about whether to eat, or whether to buy medicine, or whether to even have a home at times, or where to live. And so these people should not be forced back to the streets, because they're not going to go to one of these legal stores and pay 2 or 3 times as much for poorer quality medicine. They're going to go back to the streets. They're going to go back to the drugs that they've been trying to get off of before. And that is completely wrong. That is completely against what this government claims it is trying to do. That our government has declared that they would be pushing people back to those drugs rather than allowing them to use these low-cost cannabis products. And we are providing, in my opinion, the lowest cost products, not only possible for us, but probably in the country when it comes to our edible and topicals. Is now wanting to force patients into that not only more expensive market, but they want patients to pay a sin tax, because the recreational market has a traditional sin tax that they have on other products. So the government on one hand says, oh yeah, we want to displace the illegal market, but we're going to put these extra taxes on top of the GST and other taxes that these places are already paying. And we are paying those taxes. In fact, we did the numbers today. Just this year alone, our club has paid over $82,000 in GST and over $41,000 in employee deductions, for a total of over $124,000 in taxes that we've paid to this government. So we're not against paying our taxes and collecting our taxes and being good citizens. But the way that this government has done things so far makes it really hard for us to want to comply in any way, shape, or form. We still do want to become part of the legal system. We will fight to the bitter end to become part of that legal system, because that is what is in the best interest of patients and the rest of the community. And so we will not give up until that point in time. So again, there's so many different problems that it's hard to imagine it all being dealt with all at once. But we would like to negotiate with the government. Again, we will try to fundraise, and but we're not done. Again, that's what we want. We want this government to negotiate with us in a fair way. We don't want this government to dictate the rules any longer. They've dictated the rules enough. People have bowed down to them enough. We're not bowing down to them anymore. We want to sit at a table and discuss like civil people what the rules should be and how we are going to phase into that legal system. So we are not going to quit fighting.